a dream. I am a mota-moti guy. I just focus on, so this is not going to be a exam session. This is just going to be my story. How I exploited is the wrong word, but how I hacked time is the right word, right? So hacking is very simple. Hacking is not what you see. Some shady computer programmer trying to get into some other computer system. Hacking is a philosophy which says I should get maximum return for minimum effort. And I'm going to teach you how to hack time. Reason why I put up females on is that induction is as it is a shady word, right? It's only used in the context of anime or some cult or something like that. So this is more of a story. This is not a PPT, so to speak. Right? So let me start at the beginning. I didn't even know what I was in 2007, and I didn't know what mentoring was. I didn't know any of these words actually. Whatever Lavin just spoke to you about mentoring, networking, education, inspiration. I was inspired, but by all the wrong kind of people. Jimi Hendrix was my inspiration. Anyway, so I had an idea, and I still remember this. These are quite vivid because Lavin called me and said, "Please deliver a presentation on your expectations in TIE." So I said, let me go back to the beginning. I was actually a member at TIE Hyderabad. That's where my TIE journey started. And I still remember waking up one wintry, Hyderabad has a winter unlike Bombay. One wintry morning saying, "Yaar, ye kya hai? I mean, what have I signed up for?" And I kind of landed in a room, and a couple of bunch of friendly people. There were guys trying to do business like me. I had a software idea. I had no idea about what software was. Pretty naive. Naive makes you do a lot of interesting things, right? So I was very naive. I had an idea. I said, "Boss, ये मेरा idea है. अब आप समझाओ कि इसको कैसे ये करना है. मेरे को software नहीं आता." That's the today I run a software company. That's a different story. I still don't know what software is. But anyway, I was very lucky to meet a mentor who happened just happened. I mean, fate, karma, call it what you may, but just happened to be a super expert in what I was trying to do. So he did the classic back of envelope. He did the classic back of envelope plan, and just basically on the back of a napkin, he said, "You want to build a voice-based search engine, right? This is how you do it, right?" So the next 6 months, that's what I was trying to build in 2007. I said, when Google can do text-based search, why can't you just pick up the phone and say, "I need a plumber in Andheri"? Logical, right? That's what naive does to you. When you don't know anything about something, you think all things are possible. So anyway, so he sketched it out at the back of an envelope. I got knee-deep into software. Actually, I got neck-deep into it. In 6 months, I had a product out. I got selected as one of the top 15 technology startups. This is a guy who doesn't know how to code. I got selected as one of the top 15 technology startups in India. Got featured at Proto.in, which even has since I think I met Praveen Gandhi, who shares the same building as TIE. Did a presentation to seed fund because they were very interested. They said, "Boss, ये क्या है? तुम voice पे search करा रहे हो? This is crazy." So I got an entire board of seed fund sitting, and I completely blew that presentation. So Praveen is a very sweet guy. He's also a charter member of TIE. He's very gruff. Don't let that get to you. And he said, "यार वो सब छोड़, तू हैदराबाद में बैठा हुआ, कुछ नहीं होगा." So this is what Praveen comes. वहाँ कुछ नहीं होने वाला तेरा. तू बॉम्बे आ जा. बहुत ये क्या लॉजिक है? He said, "Come to Bombay. यहीं तेरा उद्धार होने वाला है." So I took it to heart. मैं कहा ठीक है यार, कोई मेरे भलाई के लिए बोल रहा है. I hope you guys understand Hindi. So others I know Tamil also. So he called me, and I came to Bombay, and Bombay was an interesting chapter. The first thing I attended in TIE was my story by Mani of Chess. That was my first TIE experience, where I met Z, and I was listening to Mani, and I was saying, I'm trying to do exactly the same thing. This is just done on the phone. So it's exactly the same thing. So I was very inspired. I said, "Boss, a guy," and if you hear these stories, if you hear stories of entrepreneurs, please understand they all started small. They all started with an incomplete knowledge of what they were trying to do. Nobody has perfect knowledge. Nobody has perfect knowledge ever. It's really inspiring because you know that a small person can actually do this. That's the inspiration part for me. Not who Narayana Murthy is today, but who he was 20 years ago is really the inspiration insofar as I go. Because that tells me that I can also do great things. That's how I get inspired by people. anyway, I met Z, and I still remember I got involved in TIE, started attending a few meetings, and then I told Z, there are some things. So ये मेरा कीड़ा है life में. In Proto, when I got selected, I said this event is not running well, so let me help. So for the next 5 editions, I helped them out, right? So I practically ran the last 3 editions. So I met Z, I said, there are some niggling things that need to be done here, which I'd be happy to take up. And my offer to her was half a brain and 2 hands, which is about the limit of my processing capability and my physical capability. So you'll see how that will evolve. I was the first batch of ELP, right? So when I was trying out these new formats, one hand would always go up, and that was basically, chalo, let's do this, I want to be a part of this. And I, as a really small fish, so this is, this story is nice, but it has a background to it. And the background should always be, how did your business do in this context? So this is not a joy of motherhood presentation. This is more, mere dande ka kya hua, right? So I'm a frank guy. So this was the joy of motherhood happening at the surface. At the bottom level, we were just a 7 crore company in 2008. 2007, 2008, and I was under ENP. My mentor just happened to be Agar Havaldar. Abey Havaldar, ठीक है यार, कोई होगा, right? You don't know who General Atlantic Partners is. You don't know that this guy doesn't do a deal less than $250 million. You just land up at his office. Very naive. I am very naive. I am still very naive and irreverent, right? So I landed up at his office. Exceptionally brilliant guy, right? Really, really brilliant guy. So even though I knew how software worked, I really didn't know how to convert it into a business. I had some stuff which by that time had bombed, incidentally, because nobody, first of all, we couldn't do a voice search engine properly. We were not Google. Google does voice search today. We were trying to do that in 2007, 2008. So that product had bombed, and we had a bunch of code, but we really didn't have a software business around it. I had another business which was stable and which was running, which was kind of feeding the home, so to speak. Abhay sat on this, on what we had made, and he said, you know what, I think you have a solution, but you have the wrong problem, right? You're not trying to tackle the right problem. So let's kind of do a khichdi of what you have, and let's do a new, let's go and attack problems that customers have, right? Don't go and sell solutions that you have to customers. So to paraphrase this in shorter words, do not please invent a solution for which there is no problem in the first place. People have just picked up the phone and spoken to just that, right? What was the need to introduce voice-based search? It was just sexy. It was not a business. So, when we got together, and in 6 months we had a business running. And the business was providing call center software services to small and medium companies, right? I don't have those pictures, unfortunately. I'm not a pictures guy. All these pictures I borrowed from Levin. But the long and the short of the story was that we actually had a business now. We had a business, and we had a business that was making small amounts of money, and everything was nice. We had a couple of good customers. I recruited my first 5 employees. Everything was hunky-dory. We went to another seminar. Again, you will meet this person during the course of your travels inside life. So Raj Nair, very intelligent, very erudite gentleman, and he was talking about something called a mentor. Right? This was in 2008. So I said, यार ये क्या mentor है? ये global क्या है? ये मुझे समझ नहीं आया. And anyway, how will it affect me? I'm one small guy running a small business in Bombay. I couldn't have been further from the truth. Right? So what he predicted came true in 2008. And the global economy unwound at a faster rate than any of us could have imagined. And suddenly my business was bust. Right? So I had gone from zero to hero to zero. Right? So remember, there is a Danda graph at the background, right? So the Danda graph is right now zero. So practically wiped out. Old business wiped out. Forget the new business. Old business also wiped out. But because I had these mentors and because I was learning very quickly, so this is the first hack, right? Please remember that the mentor may not know anything about your business. It's a fair assumption. But they know a hell of a lot about business in general. So those are the bits that you need to pick up. Right? They may not be relevant to your business at all. Nobody can beat you at healthcare or construction or whatever it is. Right? But the mentor knows a hell of a lot about business in general. we were very lucky. We survived again thanks to mentors who said, "Ki boss, abhi cash flow hold karo. Now just conserve cash flow, don't do anything else." We just sat and conserved cash flow, we didn't do anything else. And I was mentored by Abhay at a close level, but I was also mentored. I am a slightly pushy guy, so I kept pushing this guy. I still push him. His name is Ajit Nagra. He refused to mentor me. I said, "That's fine. I'll sit at a distance. I'll do it at Ekalavya's time, right? I'll just watch what you do. You don't have time, so I will sit at a distance and I will still learn from you. Whether you want to teach me or not is irrelevant, right?" So every 6 months to this day, Ajit and me get together for a coffee. I tell him what I'm doing. He suggests one or two things. This is the second hack. Whatever a mentor says, please don't swallow pre-digested. Apply your brains, your filters, your logic to it. You're also intelligent people. Don't get overwhelmed or overawed by these people. They're extremely talented. They're extremely successful, no doubt. But they don't know your business like you do. So every 6 months or thereabouts, Ajit and me have coffee together. And the important thing I do, which is why he gives me this Ekalavya style mentoring, is that whatever he tells me, I give him a progress report on the next time we meet. And I take it in bite-sized increments. The problem with our world today is there are too many tech crunchers, there are too many life hackers, there are too many sources of information. We are all on a very information-rich, action-poor diet. You need to flip that in your life. You need to be information-poor. Might sound a little counterintuitive, but instead of reading everything there is to read, if you can just take bite-sized samples from a few trusted sources and action them, have a bias towards action, then the results are much better. So I take a bite-sized sample from Ajit, and in 6 months I report back to him saying, you know, this is what you told me, this worked, this didn't work, these were the results. Right? Technically he should have been my mentor by now, but I just missed that. Which is fair enough. So you make do with what you have. This is very interesting. So I kept putting my hand up. We came up with a crazy idea in 2010, right? So Danda graph, please remember, this is joy of motherhood, which is in the foreground. There is a Danda graph in the background, right? So we were conserving cash. I had learned a lot in the Thai seminars. One of which was how to raise money. In fact, Ajit was leading that seminar too. I was a very Lala mentality guy. Boss, ye to mera dhanda hai. I own it. I've been running it. I will continue to own it for till kingdom come. I attended a couple of these Thai seminars, Thai Institute actually, where Ajit spoke about the wealth versus the control paradigm. And if you realize, the wealthiest people in the world really don't control their own companies. If you look at it that way, if you look at a Sergey Brin or a Larry Page so Michael is the exception. But on the whole, these guys are not majority owners in their own companies, Narayana Murthy inclusive. Again, there is always exceptions to the case. So where there is a Narayana Murthy, there is an Aziz Premji. But I chose to take this path. I said, look, I'm not creating value, I'm not making the pie bigger. There is no point being a 100% owner of a $0 million company. You might as well be the 10% owner of a $10 million company, it's still a smaller bit of a bigger pie. So remember the graph. In the background, we were still at about 7-8 crores. This business was still dull, that business was still dull. We said, look, we are not going to get anywhere at this rate. So in 2010, we raised a round of money, close to $1 million from a private investor. And with the end object saying in 4 years or in 3 years, we'll have an exit. So I as the entrepreneur will have an exit, which I still don't have. It's a different story again. But it was very difficult for me to part with, and at a very low valuation, saying, you know, so I gave away a chunk of my company to a third party in exchange for growth. That was happening in the background. In the foreground, all kinds of exciting things were happening. This was BizKids. I still remember, same different office, but almost the same structure. We got together and we said, why don't we take business education to schools and teach kids how to do business in an 8-day course, right, or 8-session course. So please remember that in Thai you will probably gain the maximum leverage by volunteering. This is an inside secret. Somebody was asking me, before the session began, how do I get in touch with the charter member? And the answer is volunteer. Straight away, you get noticed. You get noticed in all the right. Remember, this is a hacking session. This is not a presentation. You get noticed immediately. The charter members really like what you're doing. I'll give you further cases, concrete cases of how this has worked. I don't volunteer because I want the charter members to notice me. I volunteer because I like what I'm doing, right? But it's a side effect of volunteering. You will get noticed. There's no option, right? So don't volunteer because you want to get noticed, but understand that a side effect of volunteering is getting noticed, right? So we volunteered for this. We had a huge amount of fun. We took this 3 editions. I think we did 3 installments. One at Kodar, one at Malad, and
MCA
and we had the hugest fun. Here was the surprise. Kids were actually teaching us what to do, right? So the first time we went to Kodar, we did this session. I delivered manufacturing, which I absolutely knew nothing about, but I learned about manufacturing. Some kids came up to me without going into the details of the program and said, we have a large amount of money. We've raised a large amount of money. We have a lot of money in the bank. That kids team is really not doing too well. Can we buy them out? You don't realize it, but you just struck upon the concept of an M&A. Right? These are what, 13-year-old kids, 12-year-old kids. And why I put this up, why I put this context up is not just because it was fun, not just because it was a personal learning for me, but I don't think in life learning or entire learning is going to be a function of what they teach you. It's going to be a function of how you can learn, or how much you can learn, how open you are to learning. So if you're open to learning from your peers, which you notice there is a very rich mix of, then you will get a lot of learning from there. If you're open to learning from your mentors, without putting your own objective, subjective biases on top of it, your learning will be accelerated. So remember, the year is 2010. Joy of Motherhood slide is schools and kids, but Buzzworks has already raised around the fund. So again, this is what Lavin talked about. Still on education. Again, hand went up for smash ups. I just like doing these things there. I'm just happy to volunteer. So Lavin called me before yesterday. He said, "Yeah, induction session." Yeah, sure. Why not? So you have to be open to all these opportunities, not necessarily commercial. And then of course your life becomes a little richer. Please remember this in life. This is a core hack in networking as well as getting educated. If you try to grab at something, whether it's money, women, men, or any other thing, you will lose. Right? It's happened enough to us. If we chase something very aggressively, unnecessarily, then it will slip away from our grasp. But the more you give, the more you gain. This is especially true in networking. This is especially true, right? So networking is not a function of grab. Networking is not a function of giving out cards and taking cards. Networking is a function of what value you can add to the other person's life. It's just that fundamental. If you can add value to the other person's life, you really don't need cards. Right? You don't need any of these things. So please remember this. If you can add value to somebody else, automatically the network grows. I'll show you concrete examples of how that happens. But please remember this. You give, you gain, but if you grab, you lose. This is me. I'm actually in all the photos. Even all the photos are living photos. But that's just me. I'm irrelevant. I'm quite hyper. Remember that in TIE, your best learning is going to happen peer to peer. Because like I keep saying, people who have been there, done that. So if I ask you a question, 10th standard biology question, how many of you are science students? So if I ask you a 10th standard biology question, can you answer it? The answer is no. If I choose a specific question, the answer is no. Why? You read it. You passed that exam, hopefully with flying colors. You passed that exam, right? Flying colors showed. You passed the exam, so you know some stuff. You would have known some stuff. But the fact is, it's so far back in your lives that you really don't remember what it was. Same problem with environment. I can say this in close group because he's not here. But the same problem with all these guys. They will give you 50k feet view stuff, right? But they really don't remember what it was like because it was such a long time ago. Narayan Murthy probably did Infosys in what, early 80s. So the principles remain the same, no doubt. But going to them for an advice saying I'm a small business, his advice may not be relevant. It might be right, but not relevant. I think the biggest learning that you can get in TIE as a function of networking and education is from your own peers. I've always subscribed to this belief. Somebody who's running a similar stage company, and I think that lady was pointing out saying we all share the same problems, the same fears and the same concerns. You also share it at the same level. So somebody who's running a boutique outfit has more or less a similar set of problems and more or less has solutions to that similar set of problems. Whereas somebody who's running a really large architectural firm really doesn't have the problems that you have. They don't have cash flow issues, they don't have employee retention issues, they don't have so many other issues that you have. So
but even if they have cash flow issues, they possibly run in thousands of crores, which is irrelevant anyway.
They're probably playing with other people's money. So even if it's a cash flow issue, it's not really his money. So he does not have the same set of problems that you guys have. When you are a 10 crore company or a 5 crore company, you have a different set of problems. At 500 crores, you have a different set of problems, and at 50 crores, you have a different set of problems. So in TIE, instead of running after the one-star speaker, today it was Ravi. So instead of running after the one-star speaker and networking is there, that's important. But I think to do that, everybody is running after that one-star speaker. If you notice, everybody was trying to get a piece of Ravi in what? 30 minutes, right? Did you notice? Yeah. So there's competition also for that guy's attention. And what he can do for you is fairly limited. No, it's fairly limited. Unless you're doing something back to him. Am I confusing you? No. So in TIE, you have 2077 associate members who are running small businesses, who are running 5 to 500 crore businesses. They can probably give you better input. Please listen to the charter members. Obviously, they've been there, done that, no doubt. But remember that it's a 50K free fee. If you're looking for something operational, you need to hang around at the water cooler. Right? So this was in 2011, right? This was 2010 again. So by this time, I realized that if you've taken money, then you need to start paddling very quickly. So by 2010 end, remember that we had taken money from an investor. So by 2010 end, we had double revenue. So we were at 14 crores. And I was seriously looking at hiring a CEO for day-to-day operations, CEO, CTO, COO. This was on my mind, but I wasn't doing anything about it yet. We'd taken the money and we'd grown. Remember, there are two stories here. One is the foreground and one is the background. I'm trying to link both of them. So this is what we were doing. We were having fun and I was growing the company. And this is so this is one of the founder members of TIE, and all of us pulled together. This is exactly the same picture that I showed you. Again mentoring, again getting inspired by people who are getting on stage, again networking. This was also 2011. This is 2011, March 2011. So I still remember Sridhar and I were one of the founder members of TIE. We all pulled together, left, right, and center. I was the quasi MC for this event, so I had a very sore throat at the end of 3 days. And Sridhar came and offered, and he said, dude, you do a lot of work, you do a lot of volunteering, you have a lot of brownie points with me, right? So don't be ashamed about it. Draw down those brownie points whenever you feel like that. So I am giving you open invitation, draw it out, use my network. And you really want somebody at his level to tell you that, instead of going and asking for that favor, right? So it's much better to get noticed rather than go with begging bowl in hand saying, sir, may I? They'll do it anyway. It's not that if you're in a, and these are pretty powerful people, right? So I'll give a straightforward example. I was trying to meet a customer, and that guy was not giving me the time of day. He was really not giving me the time of day. Without naming names, Sridhar's company, Bessemer, had put money into that guy, right? They just invested a round into that person, right? I picked up the phone, I called Sridhar, I said, boss, you remember that brownie point statement? I want to try it down now. I want to meet him with that guy. Guess how long it took him to fix that meeting at his level? What is your guess? And I have been trying for the past 2 months to actually fix this meeting, right? I mean, get him to meet, getting his secretary to put that mail in his box, forget getting him to meet. Yeah. How long do you think it takes?
9 minutes.
Exactly 2 minutes. It's just one mail to his one down saying, "Bacche ka meeting kara do." Next mail to that guy, and that guy's secretary saying, "Aapko kam meeting chahiye?" So contrast this with me trying to do something independently, and vis-a-vis Sridhar just shooting a mail kara de. Right? But those, if you are earning it, those points, those brownie points are much more valuable than if you go and demand it. So TIE members, charter members especially, are very generous with their contacts in TIE. Very generous. You don't need to do what I just did, to be honest. But just makes you feel good that you have a brownie point account with somebody that you can draw down, that they're giving you carte blanche to use. Right? So by this time my CEO hunt had started. Right? This was early 2011. My CEO hunt had started. And I had given myself exactly 1 year to find myself a CEO. So I said, boss, कुछ भी हो जाए मेरे को Jan 2012 में तो CEO चाहिए ही चाहिए. Okay? कुछ भी हो जाए. So we did shortlisting. Again, remember Ajit Nagral, my coffees with him. So I asked him, sir CEO कैसे ढूंढते हैं? मैंने तो कभी CEO अपॉइंट नहीं किया. ना मैं CEO बना, ना मेरे पास कोई CEO था. तो आपके पास तो बहुत CEO है. आपने तो 3-4 कंपनी खड़ा किया. तो how do you do CEOs? So 15-minute coffee. He told me this is what you look for. This is roughly how much you pay. This is what you should do with that guy, and so on and so forth. This is a guy who's already done what, 4-5 CEOs. Right? So 15-minute coffee again. And you know what the joke is? They'll pay for the coffee. Right? So, उतना पैसा भी नहीं खर्च करना पड़ता. You don't even need to pay for the coffee. Right? The charter member, if you're sitting with it, coffee is a given. You don't even need to spend money. You just need to spend time. So this period got over. In 2012, so coming to networking and so on and so forth. In Jan 2012, we appointed a CEO for our company. Jan 2012, we would have done 24 crores of business. So remember, from 7, we went to 14, from 14, we went to 24. And my network had become really powerful by this time. So this is like a snapshot of my LinkedIn page. When I joined TIE Hyderabad, I had probably 50 people in my LinkedIn profile, and about 40 of them were my own employees. They were all trying this out. Ye kya hai? They were getting connected with each other. I'm sure anybody who joined LinkedIn earlier will always do friends and family and employees first. Like I think 40 were my employees and 10 were family or something like that. So this grew to now 1,300, 1,400 people, and I'm fairly choosy with my. So I won't just add you if you send me a request. So this is high quality contacts, or at least I hope that they are high quality contacts. Incidentally, how to build your LinkedIn network is a TIE Institute session, right? So Social Wavelength came, they did a 1-day session on how to build your digital profile, and they took us step by step. So from 50 I went to 100, from 100 I went to 500, from 500 I went to 1000, and from 1000 now I'm close to 1500. So there are background stories running here. On the foreground you are learning, but at the background you are applying that knowledge. This is very critical. There is no point. I think Lavin showed you one slide. For him to go through what I was doing took 10 minutes. Just to give you one-line explanations of what they do took 10 minutes. So the temptation is to drink deep at the fountain of wisdom, so to speak, right? We have to seriously avoid that temptation. So you have to pick and choose 3 or 4 things that is very relevant. Pick up the learning. This was very relevant for me because I was not a LinkedIn guy. I would have supplanted this with the Facebook, my Facebook homepage. So I have a Facebook ID. My homepage is blank. There is nothing on it. It's just a blank page. So I could have shown you a blank slide, and that would have been my Facebook homepage. So I haven't worked on that side. LinkedIn is my Facebook for work. But the point I'm trying to make is that somebody taught me this knowledge, and I was diligent enough to actually apply it back. And this knowledge came free. And this knowledge came from people who are recognized experts in their field. So Social Wavelength runs social media campaigns. Lavin is very good at social media, so I keep calling him up and I say, Twitter kya hota hai, and all of that stuff. And he keeps telling me stuff, right? So learn for sure, but immediately apply what you've learned. A, it will keep the learning process going, and B, it will show you concrete results. So you can go beyond TIE also. See, what TIE does through its network and through its events and through its outreach is also that it gives you the next level of learning. So far you've learned. Now your network. This is August 15th, 2012. Right? And this is the last slide in my presentation. So, TIE, as a result of their networking, got 101 entrepreneurs tied up in a platform called Ascent. Now, this is for people who have grown their business to a certain level and want to grow it again. So, remember that you had a 5 crore different set of problems. By this time, this year, we are ending at 30 crores. Next year, we'll end at 50 crores. But now we already have a first line. So we have a COO, we have a CEO, we have a CTO for a software company. So I have an IIT guy who is the CTO, we have an IM guy who is the CEO. I am a 12th pass. How I pass is different stories. So we are at 30 crores, but I need to grow this now to 50, 100 crores because I have investor, not pressure, but expectations. So TIE did this outreach and said, how do we make entrepreneurs grow? And they put some of us, all of us came through, more or less 90% of this crowd came through TIE only. Startup leadership was again a TIE outreach, and I have gained enormously as a result of that. Again, very short program that TIE gave us exposure to. But long story short, if you use this well, and this is a 5-year journey that I tried to do in 5 slides. If you use TIE well, you can actually grow from 0 to hero to 0 to hero. Right? So right now my company is 30 crores. We will do about 50 crores in the coming year. The foreground obviously is the opportunities that TIE provides to you. But the background of this story is what kind of impact can it have on your top line, bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you very much.